Philadelphia's offensive coordinator search is entering week 3. There's a brand new name on the block the Birds are finally allowed to talk to. Plus, while the Eagles dodged a massive bullet which gives new life to Brian Daboll, but officially ends the dream of landing the next Ben Johnson. And the big free agent move that everybody wants is looking more real, by the Eagles potentially not needing him. Thomas Mott, this is the Thomas Mott Show. Well, we're now on day 12 since the Eagles fired Ken Patullo, yet the offensive coordinator search appears no closer to actually finding his replacement, thanks to the Dallas Cowboys over the weekend showing the Birds some of the good old-fashioned NFC East hate right after stealing a coordinator of our own. But that won't stop the Birds from going after perhaps their top target after all, thanks to the Seattle Seahawks showing everybody why Philadelphia must call Sean McVay today. First, though, I actually never heard from the winner of this bad boy, the Jordan Spector Art Philly art piece from Saturday's show. That was Josh Mutnick4743. Josh, you have till Wednesday to email me via the link down below in my description box and claim this bad boy. If he doesn't, I will draw a new winner from down below in the comment section. So why don't you drop a like, be subscribed, and comment Go Birds to make sure you're re-entered. Now, surely I wasn't the only one watching the Seahawks and Rams game last night to notice this. Okay, wait, no, not the fact that the NFL's social media graphic posted in September to their Twitter account happened to have Drake May and Sam Darnold closest to the Lombardi Trophy. No, what I actually noticed was the fact that offenses, I guess now, are technically allowed to scheme open their best receivers drive after drive after drive. Both Sean McVay and Clint Kubiak were in their bags during the NFC Championship game, which made me, an Eagles fan, someone who endured the Ken Patullo regime, absolutely mad. And then, of course, there's the one simple stat that should make you rage even more about KP. That's the fact that in the NFC title game alone, last night, there were 15 successful under-center play-action passes. The Eagles themselves had 24 successful under-center play-action passes the entire 2025 season, which naturally led a lot of Eagle fans to get mad on Twitter and actually ask the question, why can't we get an offense like the Rams or like the Seattle Seahawks? And actually, the answer today is, technically, they can. The Rams passing game coordinator, Nathan Scheelhaase, could actually be the perfect candidate to fix all of the Birds' problems. After last night's loss, he's now available to officially interview with the Eagles. Scheelhaase started out as a former college quarterback turned offensive mastermind in the National Football League over the past decade. Despite only being 35 years old, he technically has called plays as an OC during his tenure at Iowa State. But in reality, it's his connection to Sean McVay that has everybody going absolutely nuts here on a Monday, because if he's the next Sean McVay, then Philadelphia has got to give him a call. McVay's coaching tree, just for example, is quickly becoming one of the most impressive in recent NFL history. A ton of great play callers are scattered all around this thing. The fact that Scheelhaase spent the past 2 seasons mastering everything McVay has been dreaming about what the Birds' offense could potentially look like for Devontae Smith, maybe A.J. Brown, and of course Jalen Hurts. And all of that sounds great. They got to call Scheelhaase today. The problem is they might have to get in line because other teams are already trying to interview him. Cleveland, for example, is flying up right now on Monday to LA to interview Scheelhaase for their open head coaching job. It's becoming kind of a theme for Philadelphia. We got to wait on everybody else to fill their head coaching spots in order to actually know who truly is available to hire as our OC. But as it stands, no one seems to want the Browns head coaching job. People keep recusing themselves, pulling out of interviews because it's the Browns. Do you really want to make your first official attempt at being a head coach in Cleveland? I would say no. And so Scheelhaase, if you do turn down the money, Philadelphia would love to have you. But of course, we'll wait and see, and that is really the theme of Philadelphia's entire past 3 weeks, which is why there have been some brand new names dropped this morning that Philadelphia technically has already talked to. As the in-route report confirmed that Mike McDaniel's offensive coordinator in Miami, Frank Smith, did interview with the Birds for their OC job this past week. Also, myself and my dog want to give a massive shout out to the sponsor of this video, Dutch. Listen, if you're a pet owner, like I am with my 7-year-old golden retriever, Ember, you know the absolute nightmare of a standard vet visit with your pet. First, you got to load your dog into the car, and then you got to drive in traffic to the actual veterinary office. And then you got to sit in a waiting room with your terrified dog for 45 minutes and then pay a $150 fee just to see the vet. It's expensive, it's a time killer, I get stressed, my dog gets stressed, it's just not a good time, and it's exactly why I started using Dutch. Dutch is the leading pet telehealth service that basically puts a licensed vet in your pocket 24/7. You get unlimited video calls and messaging with 100% licensed vets whenever you need it, day, night, or weekends. And in literally just one 10-minute call, they can diagnose and create a treatment plan for over 150 different conditions, from UTIs to allergies to anxiety. And of course, because they have their own pharmacy, they ship meds straight to your door with free delivery. That's crazy, where you're saving about 20% on prescriptions and over-the-counter meds compared to the local clinic. And right now, you can get a Dutch membership that covers up to 5 pets. And on average, Dutch users are saving about $650 a year on vet care. So if you're like me and want to free yourself from the expensive vet visits, well, link down below in my description box. Check that out, or scan the QR code somewhere right over here. Trust me, your pet will thank you and your wallet will as well. Now, Frank Smith is probably one of these coaches you've never heard of, and yet his resume, you look it up, it's actually pretty impressive. He spent 16 seasons in the National Football League and the past 3 years under McDaniel in Miami. Obviously, he wasn't the one calling the plays for 2 in the Dolphins, but during the peak of the Dolphins' offensive powers in 2023, Smith was actually voted as the NFL's top offensive coordinator, didn't know that, according to the NFLPA's internal survey. And we know from reporting last week that Philadelphia was very high on Mike McDaniel. He was potentially their number one candidate who they really wanted for the OC job. And so, if you can't get McDaniel, maybe you get his right-hand man, someone who studied underneath him. Frank Smith, haven't heard his name a lot, but he technically makes a lot of sense. That does, however, technically lead to a much broader point I must make this morning, as Philadelphia has likely interviewed a lot of other candidates that have yet to be named. As according to one Eagles beat writer, Philadelphia has not made all of their interviews public as of yet because they love and value the idea of secrecy and gathering as much intel from a wide range of candidates as possible. With another great example being the next new name who was dropped again this morning in Texans quarterback coach Jerrod Johnson, who actually was a free agent on the Eagles' UDFA practice squad back in 2021, but has had coaching stops under Kevin O'Connell in Minnesota, and most recently, the past couple of seasons, as the quarterback coach for C.J. Stroud in Houston. And this is another name I had not heard of, at least until recently, and yet when you actually look up the details of Jerrod Johnson, he was on the 2019 Colts staff that included Nick Sirianni, and so you connect the dots and you go, okay, well, I guess it makes sense why they'd interview him. Personally, though, Johnson kind of feels like Jim Bob Cooter to me, although Cooter technically would be a more experienced offensive coordinator, but I think this is less of an actual candidate and more of just, again, broadening the base, widening the net, and seeing who else is out there, which I hope is actually the same reasoning behind the weekend news that Philadelphia apparently had interest in former Steeler offensive coordinator Arthur Smith, again last week, until over the weekend, Smith took the offensive coordinator job at Ohio State. Arthur Smith, bullet dodge there. I'm so glad Philadelphia did not hire Arthur Smith. Go have fun at Ohio State. I'm sure you'll be great, but anything about Arthur Smith, his time in Atlanta, his time in Pittsburgh, Tennessee, it's like, oh boy, not exactly the offensive coordinator Philadelphia fans would be interested in. But let's go to my point earlier. They're casting the widest possible net. I mean, this is absolutely insane. They probably interviewed so many more candidates than we actually realized, and Arthur Smith was another one, which we didn't know about until it dropped again once he was hired in Ohio State. Now, moving on to interviews Philadelphia tried to have this weekend, and how about Philadelphia going to the Dallas Cowboys and requesting to interview their offensive coordinator, Klayton Adams, only for Dallas to pull the NFC East rivalry card and tell Philadelphia to go ahead and punch wood. They are not allowed to interview Klayton Adams. And if your reaction is, Thomas, didn't the Cowboys just take Christian Parker from our roster? Why didn't we deny that interview request? The Dallas Cowboys denied our interview request for their offensive coordinator. Simple answer is because Christian Parker was a DB. If you're a lesser coach interviewing for a greater coaching job, you cannot deny the request. But if you want to go OC to OC, a lateral move, technically in the National Football League, you can deny that request. And so Philadelphia couldn't do it with Christian Parker, but Dallas could do it with Klayton Adams, which I guess is their right. And honestly, I'd want Philadelphia to do the same thing if Dallas was trying to poach some of our coaches and we were allowed to deny the request. But come on, what a lame move here. I know that Adams didn't call plays for the Dallas Cowboys. Their head coach, Brian Schottenheimer, did. But I would at least be interested in this because the Cowboys, despite all their flaws, had a pretty darn good offense the past couple of seasons. Now, of course, all these new names are popping up. All these names that Philadelphia tried to interview with, they're popping up as well. But where's Philadelphia actually at on their offensive coordinator search? Who are, let's say, the top 3 candidates right now? Well, according to the NFL Network, we technically know their names. As Ian Rappaport went on TV yesterday and mentioned Matt Nagy, Jim Bob Cooter, and Brian Daboll, with Daboll continuing to rise back up the rumor mill as Mike Garafolo also echoed that Daboll remains, quote, in the mix for the Eagles' offensive coordinator job, which I think is pretty exciting because a couple of weeks ago, we would have taken Brian Daboll right behind Mike McDaniel from 1 to 2 as our number 2 offensive coordinator option in Philadelphia. Then a report saying he's going to get the Buffalo job, he's going to go to Tennessee, and yet now he comes back and potentially could still be in the mix for Philadelphia. However, I think he does want the Bills' head coaching job, and so just like every other candidate I've talked about earlier today, wait to see if they actually get a head coaching job. If Buffalo goes in a different direction, well, maybe Brian Daboll could be the lucky winner. Unlucky for us, however, was the news out of Chicago this morning that everybody's favorite 29-year-old offensive coordinator Declan Doyle has withdrawn himself from the Eagles' OC job or remain another season with Ben Johnson and the Bears, which honestly is a huge bummer. I mean, I spent the entire last week envisioning the Birds finding the next Ben Johnson. Oh, it's going to be great. But it appears Doyle wants yet another year to learn and grow with the Bears and said Ben Johnson. Honestly, a very smart move for him, at least in my opinion, but nonetheless, another disappointing loss for the Birds. This, of course, is not going to stop the usual suspects to claim, oh, he didn't want to coach Jalen Hurts, another indictment on the Birds, which I guess means that Mike McDaniel and now Philip Rivers this morning don't want to coach Josh Allen because they also recuse themselves from the head coaching job with the Buffalo Bills. Sorry, I don't make the rules. You did. Now, moving on to other non-coordinator news. How about former Eagle defensive back coach Denard Wilson coming back to the NFC East as he is officially signed to be the Giants defensive coordinator over the weekend and a move to join John Harbaugh in New York. Likewise, I also couldn't help but laugh to see the Packers hiring Jonathan Gannon to be their new DC following his very unimpressive stint in the Super Bowl with Philadelphia with the Arizona Cardinals as their head coach the past couple of seasons. I guess, though, Nick Sirianni's coaching tree, it continues to grow. He's got a couple of head coaches who have been hired, now a couple of defensive coordinators who have been hired. He technically is building himself a nice, impressive coaching tree. Finally, though, coaching aside, there's been a lot of buzz the past couple of weeks growing in Philadelphia by the Birds' potential first free agent addition, which could be happening in just a few weeks. As the NFL Network reported over the weekend that the LA Chargers are expected to cut right guard Mekhi Becton, making him an unrestricted free agent. Now, Becton's stint in LA was really a mess from the start, as despite playing in 15 games for the Bolts this season, both his pass and run blocking grades became an absolute total disaster in 2025. At one point ranking 83rd out of 85 guards by PFF. And apparently, according to Tony Pauline, Becton, quote, reverted to his former ways in LA. But that kind of sounds like Mekhi Becton. He's worked absolutely nowhere except for Philadelphia. And so you read a report like this and you go, wow, he's going to be a free agent, he's going to be cheap, and Philadelphia should 100% call him. However, there is one technical issue, I think, statistically standing in the way, and that is that, according to PFF, which, again, take it with a grain of salt, Tyler Steen in 2025 was better than Mekhi Becton in 2024 in Philadelphia. Yet, despite PFF's shady grading system, I think all of us watched the Eagles' rushing attack behind Becton on the right side 2 years ago versus Steen on the right side this past season, and we have eyeballs. I would take Becton right now if he was back to his 2024 form. And it really feels like Jeff Stoutland is the only place Mekhi Becton would want to go. He got paid in LA, didn't work out, come back to Philadelphia. We also have potential Matt Pryor as a free agent, Brett Toth as a free agent, and so at worst, bring him back on a cheap one-year contract, be a backup, tackle, a backup guard, backup Tyler Steen. I don't care. The Birds are definitely going to need depth on the offensive line. We saw what happened this season. They for sure need depth, and Becton, because he's going to be a free agent, is 100% worth a call in the coming weeks. Now, of course, plenty more stuff happening the next couple of days and weeks. We'll keep tracking. So we did on today's show the brand new offensive coordinator names who are popping up here and there. Can they get an interview with this person? Can they not? Scheelhaase, I really like that name. We'll see if they can actually make a phone call. It's going to be interesting. Will it happen anytime soon? Maybe. If it does, be sure to subscribe, turn the notification bell. We'll go live as soon as it does. However, if Philadelphia takes their time, looking like they might go ahead and do that, it could be late this week, early next week, early 2 weeks from now. We really don't know. So buckle up. We'll see. I'm Thomas Mott. Keep you guys up to date. This has been the Thomas Mott Show.